Hey guys, I'm your host Mark, and welcome back to the Pausing Porn Podcast, the podcast that is here to support you in your healing journey from compulsive porn use. As someone who has been through the recovery journey themselves, this podcast was created to give you the knowledge, tools, and support needed to help you make the progress that you're looking for. Thank you for tuning into the podcast today, and let's get started. Guys, how are we feeling today? Isn't it crazy? 2025 is almost over with. We just have a couple more weeks. And I don't know about you guys, but 2025, it flew by for me. I genuinely feel it should still be around the end of summer or maybe early to mid fall. But no, we're right in winter. Before we know it, it's going to be 2026. It's crazy. And guys, just before I get into the podcast here today, I want to ask you, since the new year's coming up, I'm looking to get any feedback from you guys. It's either good feedback, bad feedback, right? Any feedback at all. Because this podcast, I'm always looking to improve it. And at the end of the day, it's not for me. This podcast is for you guys. So if I'm missing on something, maybe you feel the episodes are too short and I don't go in depth enough. Maybe you feel that they're too long and they're not as easy to absorb. Or you feel that I'm completely missing on certain subjects that you want to hear more on, right? Like whatever it is, please just provide that feedback because I'm also going to do a review of my podcast, just review the quality and everything I've put out there so far and look for improvements I can make in 2026. So whatever feedback you guys have, just drop a comment and provide all the feedback that you can. It'd be much appreciated. All right, so now let's dive into today's episode. As you see, the title of this episode is called Choose Your Hard. This time, unlike last episode, I'm not talking about your penis. For episode 30, Choose Your Hard is going to be based on choosing recovery or choosing porn. Now, I say choose your heart because I won't lie to you, and I've said this before, and you'll hear this everywhere. Both options, either recovery or compulsive porn use, both of them are not easy. Like rewiring your brain from years of porn use is not easy, but it is much more difficult to continue living your daily life with compulsive porn use. I've been in your shoes before, so I know how it feels when you want to gain a life free from porn, but your actions don't always line up with your goals. I've also had countless days where I decided to relapse just because it felt easier. You know, those days where you wake up with the urge and you go to work and you come back home, and before you know it, there's an urge, but it feels 5 times stronger. And you're exhausted from your work day, you're tired, you're hungry, and you just go, I'll get it over with. Or you tell yourself one last time, right? And to yourself, it feels easier. It feels much easier than sitting with the urge, identifying the urge, feeling out the urge, and letting it pass. Or it also feels easier than reaching out to your accountability partner, your support person, or your group. But you guys also know how it goes. Like, you know what happens after you're done listening to the urge and relapsing, how you feel afterwards. Does it actually feel easier? No, not at all. Because after a relapse, you'll feel guilt or shame. You'll feel irritable. You can feel exhausted. You might feel depressed or melancholy, maybe even fear or anxiety. And on top of all that, you've also reinforced the habit loop in your brain. This is strengthening the connection between feeling an urge and responding to it with porn. This is what makes the urges feel stronger next time. So I don't know about you, but it does not sound any easier than properly recovering and doing the work to rewire your brain. I'll build on this further. I'm a firm believer that porn is not necessarily the problem. And hear me out, guys, before you write me off. I don't believe it's necessarily the problem. I see porn as a symptom of the problem. So we have all learned along the way that porn can serve as a great escape to deal with discomfort in our lives. For me, it was dealing with severe OCD in my teens. I quickly learned back then that when I was feeling that severe anxiety that came with OCD, porn helped me temporarily escape that. So later on, My brain began to offer porn as the solution to anything. Anytime I started feeling discomfort, it would be porn. Anxious? Watch porn. Tired? Watch porn. You're bored? Watch porn. And I can escape whatever that discomfort feeling would be. Now, obviously, this was not healthy. It was very unhealthy, and it had a huge impact on my life over time. But this is how I developed my unhealthy porn use. So, if porn is the symptom, let's ask the real question. Did relapsing actually solve the problem? Let's take a common problem that everyone feels. This is stress, right? So whether you're working your 9 to 5 or you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, maybe you're in university, I'm sure you guys feel stressed. And before I go in on an example, I want to define stress. Last year, I was reading the book called Permission to Feel. This is by Mark Brackett. He's a psychologist, and I love how he defined stress. So he defines stress as a response to too many demands and not enough resources to meet them. Okay, so let me paint out a scenario for you guys. Imagine that you're a full-time university student and you realize your final exam, worth 40% of your grade, is not next week when you thought it was. It's actually due in just 4 hours. On top of that, you haven't even started studying yet. And on top of that, you also have 2 papers due in less than 24 hours. So guys, that is stress. You have too many demands and not enough resources to meet them. Of course, you start spiraling. Your brain starts going a million miles a minute, trying to figure out what you should do, what can you do, thinking that you're going to fail, what are your parents going to think? And in this spiraling, your brain, it offers you a solution. It sends you an urge, and it offers you the solution of watching porn so you can escape. Now imagine you follow it. You spend the next 45 minutes watching porn and masturbating. And for those 45 minutes, the stress completely disappears. You don't even think about it, and you just escape into a fantasy of what you're watching. But of course, this can't last all night, so you finish, you clean up after yourself, and you're right back to where you started. Except now, you have less time, less mental clarity, and less focus. So the demands, they did not go away. The demands are still the exact same. But your resources, they actually got smaller. So the stress does not get solved. It actually just intensifies it. So yes, porn felt like the easier option in the moment, but as you can see in reality, porn just made everything much harder. I want you to reflect on a recent relapse you might have had, and maybe one where you relapsed because it felt easier in the moment. After following the whole chain of events, ask yourself some questions for me. Did relapsing actually make things easier? Did it make the urges weaker or stronger? Did the underlying issue go away? Did you get closer to your goals or feel that you were pushed further away? And why did watching porn appear as the easier way out at the time? I'll share a personal example of a relapse that I had a couple years ago because at the time it just felt easier. This comes directly from my journal. It was in May of 2023. Also, guys, this is another reason you should keep a journal. I've had a podcast episode on journaling, so if you haven't listened, I'd go back and listen to that. And I do mention this point. It is so rewarding to look back at previous journals and look at the progress that you've made. Because I know how it feels when you're going through recovery and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels. Like you feel like you're putting in all this work and you're trying to learn and make good change and achieve your goals, which is to gain a life free from porn. But you feel you're just the same person making the same mistakes over and over again. I know how that feels. It's very disheartening. But if you keep a journal, not only does it have its benefits, like I mentioned in that podcast episode, but it's so rewarding to look back. Because when I read my journal entry from May 2023, which was, I think, just a year and a half ago, a little bit more, truthfully, I don't even recognize the person. Like, I know I wrote it, but I am not the same person today. Not even close. So it's very rewarding to look back and see all that self growth. Okay, so the journal entry, it goes like this. I wrote, "It's Sunday today. I didn't spend it with my girlfriend, but I spent it alone. In the short period of 24 hours I've spent alone so far, I have relapsed and masturbated 4 times." Sheesh, 4 times. And the bad part is, this was a common Sunday occurrence for me. I didn't touch much further on the relapse in my journal. I continued on to other things, but I have a very good feeling of what would have happened that day. Most likely, what happened is I slept in on the Sunday and I woke up later than I wanted to. Then I would go on my phone in the bed, and it wouldn't take long for an urge to come in. And if it was a Sunday without plans to see anyone, there's many times I would just feel that it's easier to get the urge out of the way and get it over with. I probably told myself just one more time, or I told myself, oh, just go quickly and I'll get it over with, right? But as you heard me say, it wasn't one more time. This wasn't just getting it over with, because I relapsed 4 times in 24 hours. So it wasn't just once, it was 3 more times that day alone. So when I reflect on it now and I can ask myself, was it actually easier to relapse that morning rather than practicing healthy recovery techniques like identifying the urge, sitting with the urge, feeling the urge, and letting the urge pass, along with communicating with my accountability partner, saying, hey, I'm feeling an urge right now. Can we talk? Right? Like, going through those steps, was it actually easier than doing that? No, not at all, because I lost my entire Sunday. I relapsed 4 times that day, so it most likely consumed most of my day. And I also know, looking back on that time, it probably followed through to the next day as well. So it led me to a binge. So, guys, what looked like the easier choice in the moment, it ended up costing me far more time, more emotional awareness, and more progress than actually sitting with the discomfort. As you guys know, the alternative to relapse, which is sitting with the urge, is not a walk in the park either. If it was, you guys wouldn't be listening to the podcast, because you'd easily sit with the urge and you'd sit through any urge on your own. But that is not the case. I like to think of sitting with an urge as a skill that you're building. Like, remember when you guys learned to ride a bike? If you're like me, you probably failed a lot. I remember choosing to ride my bike on the grass because I'd constantly fail and I was tired of falling on the road and getting so badly hurt. So the grass was just a little bit more comfortable. But riding a bike, it's a skill. And just like any new skill, you're not going to be perfect at it right away. You're going to have victories and you're going to have setbacks. Just because you have a setback and fall off the bike does not mean that you're not meant to be able to ride the bike at all. All it means is that there's more learning and practice that you need to do to succeed. That's why I say choose your heart, because recovery is not easy, but living with compulsive porn use is 100 times harder. All right, that's it for today's episode. So, going back to the start of the episode, I just want to remind all of you guys, please leave a comment with some feedback. I want to make this podcast as valuable as possible for all of you. So I need to know what you guys like so far and what you want to see more of. And if you found this episode helpful, please leave a review, because I really appreciate them and it helps other people find the show who need to hear it. Thank you for tuning in to the Pausing Porn podcast today, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.